by 2035.
There you go. Let's just make everything electric. It's going to solve all the problems in the world.
How do I find out where to dump?
Now you have to figure out a place where to plug in.
And we struggle with the problems of normal power, powering our 12-volt fridge. So what do we do?
Well, what can we do?
We are back today with another news segment.
Yes.
Really hot topic in the news. It's actually been something that's been out there for a while, though.
Absolutely.
And it is California's rules and regulations regarding all EV by 2035.
There you go. Let's just make everything electric. It's going to solve all the problems in the world.
So most of these rules and regulations rolling out actually stem to laws that were enacted in the 2010s. And this has just been playing out over time. California's sort of air quality board, C.A.R.B, has been inching ever farther in converting everything to electric. And the latest news to hit the industry was that all EV requirement for new vehicle sales by 2035. And unless you've been living under a rock, you undoubtedly have already heard about it and people have talked about it. So why should you watch this video? Well, because we are going to dive a little bit deeper into this topic.
Get our shovels and start digging.
And we want to hear some comments and interaction because we do need to talk about all the issues surrounding this.
And this is honestly a discussion that needs to happen in the RV community. So we're here, we're bringing the news forward, and we're wanting discussion. So let's go for it.
All right. So here's the basics. By 2035, California is going to require all new vehicle sales to be 100% EV or zero emissions. Now,
how does this affect somebody living in Montana?
This is the hitch, right? So a bunch of states have enacted trigger laws or tied some of their emissions requirements to California. They'll say about a dozen states, and it's, varies. Many of them in New England or on the East Coast, all but New Hampshire, live free or die. So that is going to also trigger other states. But let's keep in mind, California has the economy and the size of some small countries.
Yes.
Or some larger countries.
But they're also thinking about going bankrupt. We won't talk about that. But anyways.
So, and lots of people travel through California, boondock in California. So how is this going to affect all of you?
Exactly.
And all of us. All right. So RVs. What's the requirement for RVs? Well, through Class C, I believe, through 2035. Class A's, they've deferred out a little bit further.
That's nice of them.
Are there electric RVs on the market? RV. It depends how we use that term.
Very loose on that discussion there.
Yeah. So if you're talking about a Class V, for example, built on a Ford Transit platform, Winnebago introduced the EV-RV, or I think they call it the ERV, but I think the EV-RV sounds a little bit better.
Yes, it does.
And I don't believe it's in production, but they did introduce it this year. And the problem is 86 kilowatt hour battery, does fast charge in 45 minutes. We'll talk about that, but only 125 mile range. Now,
how are you going to be traveling as an RV when you can only go?
That's 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it severely limits your travel capacity.
Absolutely.
Right? Other people, Thor is working on the Vision, and that is a hybrid, though. It's a combo. It's not only battery; it also has, comes standard with a certain amount of solar, and then also has hydrogen cell technology built in. Now they're saying that's going to give you 300 miles.
Okay, cool.
And that sounds great.
Yes.
Except when, how it's hard to find water sometimes, or a place to dump.
Yes.
And people are always like, how do I find out where to dump? Now
you have to figure out a place where to plug in.
And and we struggle with the problems of normal power, powering our 12-volt fridge.
Yes.
powering everything else in our rig. You know, some people talking about how I need to run an air conditioning. How do I do that off of batteries? And well, you use your generator. Well, what happens when gasoline goes away? And most generators, fixed or portable, are powered by gasoline.
Yeah.
Another topic, right?
Yes.
So what do we do?
What can we do?
What can we do? Yeah, not much of anything at the moment. And understand, these are just the beginning of regulations. Okay, they're continually inching out, and we're going to have to see what other states do. So the prediction is, and some people will say, as California goes, the nation goes. I'm not sure how that is going to sit in some states, but ultimately, it starts to dismantle the infrastructure that sits under it. Right. What are we talking about?
Repairs on RVs.
Repairs, which are hard enough to find already.
You have to get on a waiting list just to get some, repairs done.
It's horrible in some places. Gas stations. So, it's like trying to find an EV charge station now, or, gas fast charge, right?
Right.
Is that going to become the gas station? There's one gas station every 100 miles, and in California they eventually go away, so you can't travel to California with a gas powered vehicle.
No.
And unfortunately the technology is not there. So everything we're talking about, current technology, is either being put in trailers. They're now putting drivetrains in travel trailers. Right? And why are they doing this? Because EV powered vehicles, currently the highest towing capacity on the market is the Tesla X. That's just under 5,000 pounds towing capacity. Okay. There are other things in development, like the Cybertruck that we've been waiting for eons. Elon.
Yes.
And it hasn't come onto the market. And the Rivian, and which are speculated to have higher towing capacity.
Right.
But okay, what do you do with your giant, 36-foot, 40-foot fifth wheel? Is that a thing of the past? And so once your gas powered vehicle dies, you can't tow it anymore. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
But we want you to start talking here. We want you to get into the debate. Is this even a viable option? Do you think that this is just a whole bunch of cuckoo talk? But it doesn't seem to be that, because the regulations are now forcing this upon us. So we have to start talking.
Well, think about some of the challenges, because if any of you have, taken your gas or even your diesel, they have a little bit more power, up the grapevine out there in California, you struggle, right, to get through the grapevine. How do you do that in an EV powered vehicle? And we're talking about, a Class A, that may be 16,000 pounds or more. Some of these 30,000 pounds. Nobody has an inkling of what the answer is for that, because the technology is not there. Okay. Let's take a little bit of a breather.
Take a break here.
So we heard from you. You wanted us to get back into some news stories, and there've been a lot out there. There's just so many people doing them, and we want to have a different approach to this.
Yes.
That inspires conversation and honest conversation.
Right.
So if you're enjoying this video, enjoying our channel, please hit that like button, because it helps us to continue to grow and more people to see our videos.
Right.
Okay. So jumping back in. So we've just talked about the actual vehicle constraints themselves, right? So let's start talking about some of the related issues. So we said, the gas generator. What happens when the gas generator, you don't find gas anymore, or you don't have a gas tank? So now you're moving to propane. And this is all, if you've seen our 12-volt fridge video, this is already a hot button. People are converting away from propane, right?
And they're going to the 12-volt fridge is electric. Okay?
So people already struggle with their power needs, right? So, what are the options there?
Right. Well, and even some of these newer vehicles, they're saying, oh, well, everything in this vehicle is electric. Okay, well, that's great if everything's electric, but how do you keep it powered?
And their simple answer, and this is why we say, it's going to change the face of boondocking in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
And just be prepared, because this might be one you don't see coming. Yeah, so you already struggle to figure out how much solar you have. Campgrounds, okay, maybe you can duck into a campground for a night, but fast charge? Do they have fast charge? No. I mean, that technology is just starting to roll out, and it's not even in the mainstream.
No.
Think about places in the middle of the Midwest where you're boondocking. Do you think you're going to be able to roll into a small town and get a fast charge?
Plug in somewhere? Where?
So how does that work, right? So what's the consequences there? And we haven't even talked about the fact that there was a mining company CEO who came out recently and said, whoa, let's slow down a second, because raw materials is going to be an issue before we even talk about the power grid, which we'll get to in a second.
Yes.
So raw materials, because the primary technology is lithium batteries, right? Now, that is changing. And so there are advancements being made there, but we're not there yet.
No.
He's saying 2025, we're going to start to see shortages in the supply of lithium. What does that do? As we've all seen with current inflation numbers, that just jacks up the price.
So you're going to have all your lithium batteries, if you have them, that you need to replace. It's going to cost more to replace them if they're even available.
Right.
Because the demand will be higher, obviously, with cars and RVs.
Right. So how do we convert not only cars, but light trucks, commercial trucks, recreational vehicles? Think about it. That's not just going to be those, but it's going to be power equipment like your tractor, etc. Eventually, that's where it goes, right? So we are in no way prepared, and a lot of people are raising the flags. So if you come up with any other ideas that we don't cover in this video, let us know in the comments down below.
Comment. Yes.
All right. So power infrastructure, and this is the one that everyone grabs because it's low-hanging fruit, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it is, because there is no certainty. I've seen, if everyone had EVs, and I think they only use passenger vehicles, and they underplay their assumptions to get this number, 10% to 15% increase in the power grid. I'm going to call BS on that, okay? New York Times article said 25%. But again, I think those analysts and analytics are only looking at passenger vehicles.
Yes.
Think about, eventually this is going to apply to long-haul trucking as well. Think about all the trucks we have out there. What do they do?
Yes.
They suffer from similar, if not more difficult challenges than the RV community.
Yes.
Okay. So let's also be realistic. In 2021, about 61% of our fuel still came from fossil fuels. Okay. Only about 20% from green energy alternatives. And a lot of that is out in the West, where they have the land for that. So geographically, you can also look at the figures and see what percentage might be in the Midwest or on the East Coast, etc., where things are more densely populated, and it's a little bit more difficult to find alternative energy, although we tend to have more nuclear in the East, right? Which still is a significant portion of the power production.
But you're not going to be driving an RV on nuclear, that's for sure.
Exactly. So what are the alternatives? Well, some of the things they talked about is giving incentives for you to charge during off-peak times. And their off-peak times are kind of like during the day, not during, people got home from work. But so your workplace is going to have an EV charging, because you're likely going to be working during the day.
Right.
And that's why there's lower electric usage, because people are working. So how can you charge your vehicle unless your workplace has that as well? So you see some of the issues that really need to be talked about and addressed. Okay. I
Take
know
a quick
we've
break.
talked a lot, so
Yes.
let's take another quick break.
Yes, absolutely.
Subscribe.
Yes.
Hit that bell for notifications.
Yes.
We do make a wide variety of videos.
Yes.
It's news videos, yes, and they're more in depth, more thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
And we also try and make reviews, content, and all sorts of other things. Some funny videos. We try to mix it up because we like to give viewers
A
good
variety. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and also help us to continue on this path. If you're liking what you like, share it with friends, visit our websites. It's getting close to Christmas here. So, I know
Exactly.
we're getting kind of limited
It's
on
a
what
tough retail season.
It
Being
is.
in the retail business, I will tell you.
There you go. But we still like to get gifts for our grandkids, or our kids. So, see what we have on our websites and check it out.
All right. So we're going to start to wrap up here.
Yes.
And the final thing I'm really going to talk about is cost before we talk about what we think is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Cost. So, I've seen, figures they like to throw out. Okay, so at 10.7 cents per kilowatt hour, I'm not sure you're not in the Northeast. I can tell you that. 10.7 cents. It's going to cost about $6, they say, to recharge your 200-mile range vehicle.
Wow, what a deal.
That sounds great.
That's
compared,
a great deal.
Especially with high gas prices.
Yeah, let's
sounds
go that
amazing.
way. Mm-hmm, let's do that.
But what happens when you have to increase infrastructure? There's a greater demand for electricity. Prices increase. So I'm going to call BS again and say there are people not paying 10 cents now. So let's be more realistic. I'm going to say 40 cents.
Ooh,
okay.
wow.
So it's $24. Let's also talk about the investment cost. EV vehicles are more expensive. It's expensive to replace that battery every, 5 years or whatever it is now. Okay. And then also the infrastructure costs for creating charge stations. So, and also remember, this is a public utility. As much as we think the gas industry is regulated, but gasoline stations, refining, etc., not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But public utilities, highly controlled by the states. Okay? And they are controlling, and approving rates. You are going to be forced into a corner, right? Not having a lot of choices. And we haven't even talked about what happens when now you have a gas-powered vehicle you bought in 2034, 2035, does that immediately start being dismantled, that infrastructure?
Right.
What happens? And these are all good questions.
Yes. Questions that need to be answered, so let's start answering them. Let's start talking about it.
Yeah, so comment down below if you thought about anything else.
Yes.
Now, where do we think this is going?
Where?
They put pie in the sky thoughts out there. Do it all the time, right? Is it actually going to come to fruition? During hearings, even the Secretary of Transportation admitted, well, the infrastructure is not there now. And when asked, well, how is this all going to work? Well, it's going to have to get there. And people will say the technology will catch up.
Yes.
Well, what if it doesn't? So here's what's going to happen in reality, okay? As we get closer to these deadlines that, they love to impose just to make it look good, reality is going to set in. And we're going to have, economic issues. We're going to have power and energy supply issues.
Grid issues, absolutely.
Raw material
yes.
Issues are going to come to the
There's
forefront.
Going to be a pushback.
And they're not going to be able to implement this. So, and that's why they're taking these baby steps. So, yes, it's something we have to keep an eye on. But, I'm not in a panic at the moment because reality is a dream killer. That's all I'm going to say.
There you go. There you go.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us
on this little news debate, discussion, thought process.
And as always,
keep on trekking.